In this video, we'll be looking at football mysteries that are still unsolved. Let's get started with our first unsolved question. How does a £15 million Premier League signing die in a completely preventable plane crash because everyone involved decided to cut corners? Emiliano Sala was 28 years old when Cardiff City made him their record transfer in January 2019. This wasn't some pampered superstar. Sala had clawed his way up from small-town Argentina through France's lower leagues. He'd been loaned out multiple times, scored goals wherever he went, and finally earned his dream move to the Premier League. Cardiff City paid £15 million for this guy, their biggest signing ever, and couldn't be bothered to arrange proper travel. You spend more money on one player than most people will see in 10 lifetimes, but you let some dodgy agent organize his flights on a plane that was literally falling apart. The flight was set up by Willie McKay, whose son Mark was involved in the transfer deal. Already sketchy, using family connections to handle million-pound transfers. McKay hired David Henderson to pilot the plane, but Henderson had weekend plans, so he found a replacement pilot named David Ibbotson. Ibbotson didn't have a commercial pilot's license. He legally couldn't fly paying passengers. Henderson knew this and arranged the flight anyway. They were essentially running an illegal taxi service in the sky. The plane was a 35-year-old Piper Malibu that Ibbotson himself called dodgy. On the flight to Nantes on January 19th, Ibbotson heard a loud bang from the aircraft. Did he report it? Did he have it checked? Of course not. Why would you investigate mysterious bangs when you're flying a rickety plane illegally? Before the return flight, Sala sent a WhatsApp message to his friends saying the plane felt like it was falling to pieces and that he was scared. Those were his last words to anyone he cared about. The plane disappeared over the English Channel on January 21st. No mayday call, no distress signal, just gone. When Guernsey police called off the search after 3 days, the football world exploded. Messi, Maradona, Argentina's president, everyone was furious. How do you abandon the search for a Premier League footballer after 3 days? The optics alone were horrible, but more importantly, it felt like they'd given up on a human life too quickly. Sala's family had to crowdfund their own search operation. Let that sink in. The family of a £15 million footballer had to ask strangers for money to find their son's body because the authorities quit looking. When they finally found the wreckage 2 weeks later, the truth was even worse than anyone imagined. Sala had died from carbon monoxide poisoning before the crash. The plane's exhaust system was leaking deadly gas into the cabin throughout the flight. Both men were probably unconscious when they hit the water. This wasn't pilot error or bad weather or mechanical failure. This was gross negligence by multiple people who prioritized saving a few £1,000s over human safety. David Henderson got 18 months in prison for organizing illegal flights and endangering aircraft safety. 18 months. For essentially killing 2 people through criminal negligence. The justice system clearly values property crimes more than human lives. Meanwhile, Cardiff and Nantes spent years fighting over the transfer fee in court. Cardiff's position was basically, we shouldn't pay for a dead player, classy. They eventually lost and had to pay over £9 million, but the fact they fought it at all shows how these clubs really think about players as commodities, not people. The investigation revealed that carbon monoxide detectors aren't mandatory in light aircraft. They're just recommended. In 2019, we had the technology to prevent carbon monoxide deaths, but aviation authorities couldn't be bothered to require it. How many other Salas are flying around right now breathing poison because bureaucrats think safety equipment is optional? Sala's father died of a heart attack 3 months after the funeral. The stress of losing his son killed him too. So really, this accident claimed 3 lives, not 2. What makes this even more disgusting is how preventable everything was. The Air Accidents Investigation Branch found that since 1984, they couldn't identify a similar case of carbon monoxide poisoning in aircraft. Sala became a 1 in a million statistic because multiple people ignored basic safety protocols. The exhaust system that killed him should have been pressure tested regularly, but there was no legal requirement for it. The heating system that pumped poisonous gas into the cabin was a known risk in older aircraft. but nobody bothered installing detection equipment. Aviation experts had been warning about these dangers for years, but the industry moved at bureaucratic speed while people died. Willie McKay later claimed Cardiff abandoned Sala by not arranging proper travel. McKay was right, but he conveniently forgot that his family was profiting from the dodgy flight arrangements. Everyone involved was passing the buck while a young man's body lay at the bottom of the English Channel. The recordings from pilot David Ibbotson that emerged later were chilling. He'd told friends the plane was dodgy and described mysterious problems during previous flights. He said there was occasionally mist throughout the airframe and talked about unexplained bangs and mechanical issues. Yet, he kept flying the thing because people were paying him cash. Cardiff's handling of the aftermath was shameful too. They included Sala's name on the team sheet for their next match with a daffodil symbol, which was a nice touch. But behind the scenes, they were already strategizing how to avoid paying the transfer fee. Their lawyers argued that since Sala never played a match for them, the deal should be void. Imagine explaining that logic to his mother. The football community's response exposed the sport's hollow virtue signaling. Everyone posted tribute messages and observed minutes of silence, but nobody pushed for systematic changes to prevent similar tragedies. Player safety committees issued statements and moved on to other business. The show must go on, even over dead bodies. Sala could have flown commercially the next day. Cardiff could have arranged proper travel for their record signing. Henderson could have hired a licensed pilot. The plane could have been maintained properly. A 50 pounds carbon monoxide detector could have saved 2 lives. Instead, everyone involved chose the cheap, convenient, illegal option. Sala trusted these people with his life, and they failed him spectacularly. The uncomfortable truth is that football treats players like expensive cattle. They'll spend millions on transfer fees and wages, but when it comes to basic safety and dignity, they cut corners everywhere possible. Sala's death exposed this perfectly. A 15 pounds million asset wasn't worth arranging safe transportation for. This wasn't a tragic accident. This was corporate manslaughter disguised as bad luck. Multiple people made criminal decisions that directly led to Sala's death, and barely anyone faced serious consequences. Sala worked his entire life to reach the Premier League. He came from nothing, fought through every level of football, and finally earned his dream move. He died because the people around him, agents, club officials, pilots, valued convenience over his life. The memorial tournaments and retired jerseys are nice gestures, but they don't change the fundamental problem. Football is a business that generates billions in revenue while operating with the safety standards of a corner shop. How many more Emiliano Salas have to die before people start treating footballers like human beings instead of expensive equipment? Sala's death exposed how football puts profit over people